Alright everyone, we start off today talking about Biden's pick for the climate change spending that's within the Stop Inflation Act, and I think also in the infrastructure bill. Infrastructure, a loose term there. Link in the description. I'm not going to archive it, it's just a tweet from Newsmax. Who does he pick for this? John fucking Podesta. And I'm loving every minute of it. To all of the anti-SJW left, and, some Democrats, it sort of soured on the Hillary bullshit. How are you liking it now? Who told you so that this would be the kind of grift that you would see with the Biden administration? Podesta shouldn't be in charge of anything. If anything, he should be investigated for numerous shenanigans that he's been involved with. I think his shining moment politically really was having to go out on stage, and he looked actually genuinely nervous at the time. You'll remember this from the 2016 election. Trump has clearly won the election. Hillary Clinton is sauced. She probably took a few celebratory drinks expecting to win, and or chugged the entire bottle when she realized that she was actually losing. And he had to come out on stage and tell the fans, well, it's not over till it's over. The counting's not done yet, but go home and get a good night's sleep. Yeah, Miss Clinton is really busy right now. She was busy thrashing around and throwing plates at people's heads, and he was the only one who was willing to go out on stage as the whipping boy. That's basically the sum and substance of his fucking career. Now he's going to be dispensing hundreds of billions of dollars in what I can only estimate will be, it's quite simple. It's going to be Solyndra 2.0. It's going to be shovel-ready 2.0. The funding is there. Enormous amount of taxpayer money has been siphoned out of the economy, out of people's pockets, causing inflation. And now they're going to use it for things that aren't actually going to bring a return. Now, the entire bill was stymied insofar as making it workable, feasibly economically, by Sinema, actually. Because one of the provisions in the bill that would have made it at least solvent, it wouldn't be a good idea, but at the very least you could make the bill work, was the closing of certain business tax loopholes. That was parsed out. Sinema threatened to vote against it unless that was removed from the bill. And so it's not even going to be solvent. You've got hundreds of billions for green energy. Really what it boils down to is getting the upper middle class to buy electric vehicles if they happen to be in urban areas. But I guarantee that they'll invest a lot of this money in other projects. Projects that are not designed to make a return. They happen to be in states that the Democrats wish to campaign in. They've got a vulnerable candidate, and all of a sudden 10,000 jobs show up. Even if that business will only last for 5 or 6 years, hey, that buys them a couple of elections cycles now, doesn't it? That's exactly what shovel-ready was. You'll remember this under the Obama administration. Shovel-ready was a complete failure, to the point where a couple of years later he had to come out and admit, and it was a hilarious time at the time, well, shovel-ready really wasn't shovel-ready now, was it? Yeah, we kind of screwed the pooch with that one, with the Solyndra bankruptcy and, half of the other businesses we invested in going under. But it was a good try, right? Yeah, we wasted $100 billion taxpayer dollars during a period when we were already in a deep recession, but an attempt was made. Gold star for effort. That was basically Obamonomics. Now Bidenomics somehow is worse. In the old days, we used to call this pork barrel politics. The idea is that you're shoveling out, for political reasons usually, or just to ingratiate yourself, help yourself to some taxpayer money. You shovel money into projects that they don't go anywhere, bridges to nowhere, like in Alaska. The idea is like you look at a federal road crew and it's 5 guys standing around watching the 6th guy very slowly pile asphalt into a pothole. That's the sort of efficiency you tend to get with these kinds of things. Inevitably, therefore, they don't bring a return. And the United States is not, by the way, the only major economy that's plagued by this problem. China has it even worse. Most of China's economy is still centrally planned. They do have a facade-free market. And if you look at those projects, wherein people are putting in their own money, building infrastructure, buildings, whatever the fuck they're doing, building a factory, they bring a return more times than not. They bring a return, I think it was 2/3 or 3/4 of the time, roughly. If you look at the centrally planned projects, that is the ones backed by the government itself, funded by the government, they bring a return like 1/3 of the time. Now, why this huge discrepancy? The discrepancy is that if people think that a profit can be made, or at the very least they have a reason to believe they'll break even and accomplish something that's necessary, they'll put in more effort. The business that doesn't take the government loan is much more likely, if it's capable of remaining solvent at all, to try to figure out, to try to innovate ways in which to be profitable. But if you're backed by a government guarantee, so that if you just totally fuck around, you can enjoy several years of good times anyway, pay yourself 7 figures, and then walk away with that money and let the business go kaput, and it doesn't really matter because the government's backing the business and will absorb the loss, why the hell would you bother succeeding? This was the case in the Soviet Union. It's partially just a canard by the West against the Soviets, in admission, but it was a long-standing stereotype in the U.S. and Western Europe, etc. The idea was, well, I mean, you can't get ahead in a commie country. You're not allowed to get ahead. So why would you work harder? If the only way you're going to do your business thing is to have a bunch of regulatory burdens and handouts from the government, why would you bother trying to be particularly stellar instead of just being average? Why would you work the extra few hours to make sure the business was more profitable? Why would you tinker around in your basement with your newest innovation, your newest invention? There's no reason to. And while that is partially mythological, it's also very much partially true. It really does depend on what commie country you happen to have been in. Chinese got past this. Eastern Germans never did. Hence the economic differential between these two areas up until the modern day. What now, leftoids? Didn't we tell you so, that this sort of grift would happen? Do you really want John Podesta controlling hundreds of billions of dollars of handouts? And you expect him, and there are people that will claim this with a straight face, they expect Podesta not to use this money, this taxpayer money, to try to give kickbacks to Clinton donors or Biden donors, to tell the truth. Not to fritter it away on non-working projects that are meant to embezzle money. This is what you expect. See, it's not about green energy. This is not about fighting climate change. This is about making boatloads of fucking cash. Podesta gets another job. He'll get paid well for it. And he makes sure that all of the notes are good at the end of the day for the Clinton Foundation. I bet that the Clintons will have ties to a significant proportion of the businesses that get these handouts. So will the Biden family. Hunter will probably be involved directly. That's what'll happen. It'll be an embezzlement scheme. They managed to hoodwink you, pig in a poke style, as I and others predicted, into giving them an enormous amount of money, and now they're going to fritter it away. It's not going to create more electric vehicles. It's not going to make the cost of solar come down to the point where the middle class will invest in it. It's not going to build more windmills. It's going to be typical horseshit liberal government projects. It'll be a complete waste of your money. Most of it will end up in the coffers of the super rich. The exact opposite, by the way, of which Biden sells his economic plans. That's about all. Peace out.